So this frequency of being a spirit caller, we had talked about this prayer, living our prayer, praying to the four directions, bringing the spirit into the physical, instilling our intent for our desired destiny, and closing our prayer with "Thy will be done through me." Because when we ultimately shoot that arrow of desire and we give up the control of how it is going to take place, we give up control of how that outcome is going to present itself, then we are living as "Thy will be done through me." And we are being encouraged right now, especially if we are someone who prays, to pray for the earth and not just for our own individual needs. That not the earth herself, she assures me that she's doing just fine, but prayers that we can have eyes to see and ears to hear and a heart that knows as a human collective. Because the moment that any of us do so, Spirit always shows it to me as popping popcorn, that there are definitely still some kernels at the bottom, but the more that those pops, the hotter it gets, the more that those kernels pop. And we are in that place right now collectively. So praying for the earth has tremendous power, praying that those of us that remain on her structure are able to move with her as she ascends into this fifth density. And Spirit says that when we offer our prayers for the highest good of all, everything we need is provided for us. And I can speak to that from a personal perspective, that when I am living in divine service, all of my needs are always met, no matter how preposterous it seems that they could be, or how far out of my reach they may seem. They are always provided. And so when we offer our prayers for the highest good of all, we can trust that everything that we need will always be provided for us. And we're encouraged to work with the tools of spirit. So as we kind of move into those interior realms through that daily meditation, that daily devotion, whatever that looks like, we will begin opening aspects of ourselves that allow us more accountability and responsibility within the weave, because these tools can be misused and have been misused many, many times over. Very quickly, this energy can be hijacked for a service to self frequency rather than a service to all or service to others frequency. So we are being encouraged to work with these tools, but to always, once again, "Thy will be done through me," because there are a lot of, quote, superpowers or activations that occur on this path that can be very seductive and distracting. And ultimately, they are party favors in comparison to the depths that are available to us in the interior realms of soul. And so it's very easy to kind of follow the shiny object, but Spirit is saying we are being encouraged to actually allow Spirit, source God, to direct these tools through us, to allow the divine to be used as grace through our bodies, through our minds, through our souls. We are consciously stepping into this partnership and co-creation with Spirit. So this is not necessarily something where Spirit just taps you on the shoulder with a magic wand and says, "You." This is our intention, our conscious stepping into partnership and co-creation in order to move into this responsibility within Weave, where Weave is our number one focus and devotion. We do have to show that we are able to be courageous in our deeds, and that we are willing to respond as one when the Weave calls us forth. Now, what does that mean? Well, that's fancy words for standing in the line at the supermarket and all of a sudden realizing that everything gets a little bit weird. I don't know how else to explain it. You start to feel like I'm on a stage. Every word I'm saying now is being heard by all the people around me. And you can either pull in, contract, pay for your groceries, and be on your way, or you can understand, I'm being used right now as a conduit of grace, and whatever comes through me is whatever needs to be said. And my job is to be courteous and humble and attentive and present, and to, let this weave move through me to the best of my ability. And it is absolutely miraculous, the things that can take place when we allow ourselves to do so. So this is consciously stepping into partnership with co-creation with Spirit. And it is a time for courageous deeds and responding as one when the weave calls us forth. We cannot let hesitation stand in our way, because if we even hesitate for a moment, we will miss the weave. And any of us who have felt that urge or that nudge and we, hesitated, we know what it feels like when it's like, oh man, okay, I know I was supposed to do that and I didn't do it. And that's okay. We don't have to beat ourselves up or, self-flagellate for not doing it. But it is a reminder that it takes a split second to make that decision, and any hesitation can make that moment move on. So Spirit is encouraging us to remember that all works for good, and that the ego craves contrast and it fears leaving this heavier density of oppression. And yet our oppressors are acting as the liberators of our soul. So it's very easily, especially in the fourth dimension, fourth density, to get very focused on the discernment of what has gone wrong on this earth. Because when you have eyes to see and ears to hear, a lot of stuff comes to the surface that was very easy to just bypass and ignore when you were entirely within the third dimensional personality structure. And it can get also very easy to get pulled into that lower fourth density where you are seeing what's wrong, but you are not feeling what's right. You are not feeling the solution or the remedy or the antidote that Spirit has already offered in that moment. So it's another trap to get focused only on seeing the truth without recognizing that love has already won. Spirit reminds us here that of Carmageddon. It was one of the terms that Spirit used in episode 2. And it was referred to as our spiritual and energetic debris that we are now transforming into light codes of awareness, wisdom, truth, and embodiment. So we can trust that as the collective moves through this Carmageddon, that the oppressors are actually acting as the liberators of our soul. And the lyrics here were, one of these days they're going to fall into their brew and they'll know exactly what they did to you. And this sense from Spirit that divine justice is already available to us, that the human gets very caught up in justice on a physical level. We can get very righteous and upset when we feel that justice is not being done in the physical weave. And Spirit encourages us to remember that divine justice is always done. And particularly if we can try our best to stay out of polarization and stay in a neutral zone, we can actually stand there like eating our popcorn as the weave unfolds and reveals to us that divine justice. It may not be the way we wanted it to happen, but I have found that it's often far more humorous, far more miraculous, and far more of a weave really ending where it begins when we allow divine justice to do its job. So the last thing Spirit says here is encouraging us to align ourselves with the energy of giving the highest value, and nothing can touch us. So we can live fearlessly when we know that we are in service to our highest value and to the highest value of those around us at all times, and that our compensation will be inherent in the act itself. And that's why when we start working with these interior realms, when we begin living with the weave as the weave, seeing and feeling the weave, the compensation comes within the weave. It's not necessarily something you can go tell, the person down the street about, or this person over here. It's not. Spirit calls that speaking away our grace, when we start to share something this sacred and this intimate and this beautiful, where there is not a receptive place for it to land. And so it can also, to the ego self, feel a little bit isolating at times when you have this beautiful juiciness, this beautiful energy moving through you, and not necessarily a place to express it. But we are encouraged that this is the year of soul companionship. This is the year where like mind and like heart are finding each other, both through the internet and through, in-person community. So we are encouraged that we are not alone, and that we're going to start feeling the benefit of that communion in the very near future.